A big week in wrestling in general, AEW even. We saw the crowning of the new All-Atlantic, or AEW, is it All-Atlantic? All-Atlantic champion in Orange Cassidy. In the main event, we saw a great match between Jericho and Daniel Bryan, where Jericho retained the Ring of Honor World Championship.
Lionheart, I like the music.
It's crazy to think that this was the first ever event this past week on AEW outside of the United States. This company's been around for about 3 years now.
They were at the home of the Marleys.
They were at the home of the Toronto Marlies, the Coca-Cola Coliseum. I've never been to the Coca-Cola Coliseum.
I'm very surprised because you're a Toronto guy. So.
But I mean, I'm not. SummerSlam wasn't at the Coca-Cola Coliseum.
Don't bring up anything else in Toronto, folks. He's a little sore about baseball these days. But
yeah.
Anyways,
I saw Christian made the comment, and he made the comment about both the Leafs and the Blue Jays
nice.
in his opening.
Are you really? Let me ask you this: Are you really a Maple Leafs fan?
No.
Yeah, I was gonna say your allegiance is the Blue Jays strictly, right?
Yeah, the Blue Jays strictly. I would say hockey. I do like going to hockey, and I do like watching hockey for sure. I would have to say if I had allegiance, it would probably be to the Ottawa Senators. I do go to a decent amount of their games. By decent amount, I mean like every once in a while, because they're affordable. It's actually closer from our proximity currently to go to Ottawa than it would be to go to anywhere else. I think maybe Buffalo is closer by a few minutes, but
it's not much.
Yeah, but Ottawa's almost like equal distance and a much more affordable price.
I just thought that was funny though, the Christian. But the thing was, he did the jab with the hockey to the live audience, and then on the TV audience, he also added in the Blue Jays. And he just said that on the headset on commentary.
But I know his real alliance. At least from Edge, I've seen him throw out the first pitch at a couple Blue Jays games.
Oh, it's all for show.
And you know what? It actually, the world of wrestling takes the sting off a little bit better when they do that, because then you can have a chance to kind of laugh at yourself. And then it does actually, and you go, you know what? You're right. It is just sports and it's funny. And, you can kind of laugh.
At least your team made the playoffs. That's cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, a big AEW event this week we saw with, obviously, like I just said, Orange Cassidy there, and Chris Jericho and Daniel Bryan in a big match. Monday Night Raw and Extreme Rules this past week. We saw the return of a man who, as soon as I saw him come out, I said, oh, that's right, Saudi Arabia's coming up. And that's Brock Lesnar. Made his return to WWE this week.
Yeah, and he made a great impact, huh?
Yeah. Seth Rollins ended up beating Bobby Lashley for the belt, which I think is good, because now we're going to get Bobby and Brock at Crown Jewel without the championship on the line.
I got to get your take on how they took the belt off Bobby. I loved it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was... the match still happened. Obviously, Brock came out, and it was funny because it's crazy to think that they just wrestled, whatever it was, at not just, but it was at Royal Rumble. You know what I mean? When Brock beat him and took the main belt off of him.
Yeah, I will say this.
To set up, obviously, the champion versus champion match that happened at WrestleMania.
Yes, but I will say, though, I'm really looking forward to this Lashley Lesnar thing. I just want to see where this goes. I hope with Triple H at the helm, I think this has a great shot to do really well. This has been a match that, I mean, realistically, you can't watch this match enough. I mean, this is going to be a
Do we see this match more than just Saudi Arabia? Do you see they're going to pull it out again at Mania?
I hope so. I really do. I really hope they do. I would love to see it at Mania. I think it's a WrestleMania type match. I think why the hell not?
And they do pull out. I mean, obviously, I knew they were pulling out for Saudi Arabia. You got to pull out the Brock Lesnar's. I won't be surprised if we see Goldberg make a return or something like that. That's just how these crown jewels, even though they have good matches that are part of the regular storylines, they still have to have the big names. They still have to be a WrestleMania for Saudi Arabia for all intensive purposes. But overall, I think Extreme Rules, I got to love it. And here's the thing, and I want to say this. WWE, I don't like the brand extension, because the brand extension is the same as the 3-hour Raw or the 2-night WrestleMania. And it's that once you sell a ticket or once you say something, you have to do it. If I say, hey, I'm coming over on Friday night, then I have to come over on Friday night. But if I don't say I'm coming over on Friday night, or say I might come by on Friday night, it leaves me open to not, right? So I like the fact, and the reason I talk about the brand extension, because we saw this past week at Extreme Rules that we can miss a lot of wrestlers. We can essentially have just one grouping of wrestlers and create a great pay-per-view. I don't want a brand extension, which means that we're going to be forced into those pay-per-views and to be forced into SmackDown exclusive, Raw exclusive pay-per-views, and then sometimes they suck. But it showed you that if they can just storyline it the way that they did for Extreme Rules, where on occasion we can miss out on, the women's tag team champions, if you will. We can miss out on Bobby Lashley. We can miss out on Austin Theory. We can miss out on the Roman Reigns bloodline group. We can miss out on the Street Profits. We can miss out on those, and felt like the pay-per-view wasn't missing them at all. I don't feel like going to that pay-per-view that I felt like I went to a lesser pay-per-view. When I left that pay-per-view, I had the same feeling as if I left a SummerSlam, and yet there was no world titles on the line.
What was your match of the night?
I mean, it was difficult because there was a decent amount of good matches.
I thought it was a good show.
Edge and Finn Balor put on a show.
Yeah, it was fun. To me, it was like vintage Edge. Like, it was like the Edge of like 15 years ago, like that was cool.
I will say that a lot of people said that the opening match of the night, the good old fashioned Donnybrook, was a really good match. I'm not going to lie. Part of the match, looking at my phone, there's a playoff game going on. And then after the playoff game came to a close, part of the match, I was pretty bummed out. But I can't really say, a good.
You missed out.
I did see the big spots. Obviously, I'm in the arena. I can't miss it. It's right in front of my face.
But the Donnybrook was good, man.
And a lot of people are saying that was one of the better matches of the night. I mean, it lasted till about 8:30.
Dude,
good.
The fight pit, man, that was fun. That was cool.
Yeah, no, the fight pit was fun.
DC's interaction with them.
DC with a shirt tucked in looked a little fun.
Are you trying to say something? I ain't saying nothing to DC. We love DC. I will say this. I never liked DC in the octagon as a fighter, but now that he's like a personality, I really like Daniel Cormier. He's actually a pretty cool guy. And I'll say this. I love the fact that there was like both Rollins and Riddle both kind of put their hands on DC, and DC said, I ain't gonna let you do that again. And I loved it because Cole and Graves were pretty much selling like, yeah, that's probably not a guy you want to mess with. He's not your normal referee. So that was cool. And I thought the spots in that match were cool. Like, I liked that one spot that Riddle had off the top there. That was cool.
No, I mean, it was entertaining. It was fun. I enjoyed the match a little. I tell you what, though, this match is not set up perfectly if you were sitting in an upper deck to watch. It did provide some obstruction because there was the roof on the cage, and obviously there's an opening in the middle, but it does, it makes me think of, when you're at, certain sporting events, certain old ballparks or something, and you got like a beam in your way and you kind of can't see.
Yeah, you got to obstruct the view.
Or if you're just a wrestling fan and you have an obstructed behind like the set or something like that, or WrestleManias when they're outdoors and they got those big beams, it kind of felt like that when like Matt Riddle or Seth Rollins would walk over here, I couldn't, see him.
Let me ask you this,
exactly.
Because you were there, you were at the arena. How was the crowd from start to finish at the pay-per-view at Extreme Rules? Was it?
It's hot? Like, yeah, it's a full crowd. Was
it legit full?
Yeah. I mean, sure. I mean, I could probably pick out a seat here or there, but yes, no. I mean, it was tickets that were sold. There wasn't TV side only. There wasn't,
So it was pretty packed.
Lower bowl only. No, it was what you'd expect if you went to a pay-per-view in the 90s kind of thing.
Great. That's what I wanted to hear. I was just curious because from what I could see, obviously, you never know when you're watching it on TV. You don't know like what the other half of the arena looks like because a lot of times they do those creative camera angles.
Yeah, no creative camera angles needed. It was a full crowd.
Cool.
Like I said, it was one of those ones in the 90s where you could put the spotlight on the whole crowd,
and
there was people
good.
all the way up to the upper deck, nothing tarped off or curtained off. People were sitting even a little behind the stage a little bit.
I gotta tell you, this Triple H era so far is looking great. I mean, from everything I've seen, there's better crowds. It just seems like there's more energy.
Yeah, no, it was a great show overall. Like I said, everything was there was no throwaway matches. There was no bathroom breaks, if you will, on this card. And yet,
well, except for the Donnybrook for you because you're too busy on your phone.
Well, yeah, but yes, I mean,
you missed one of the best matches of the night to watch your team lose.
I just can't give an honest, it didn't like the Edge and Finn Balor match. I mean, I was watching every inch of that when they came up into the crowd, all the spots.
The whole show was great. I mean, I enjoyed
it. And it shows you that they can put on this great show without having like everyone there. You don't have to have a super show, if you will. You don't have to have Lesnar and Reigns and the Bloodline and the Street Profits and the Usos and, Bobby Lashley. They were not there. They were not missed.
Still a great show.
Yeah, still a great show.
And a Ronda Rousey match with Liv was good. I love the fact that she was smiling, Liv, as she was losing.
One negative I will take away, and not from the match, but Ronda Rousey said that she did say that she wanted to do a thumbtack spot, and where she would obviously be the one to land on the thumbtacks that they turned down. And we've talked about this before, and we'll talk about it now. It's great to hear the story. It's great to hear the backstage, what really happened kind of things. But it's better to do it in the future when we're watching the Ronda Rousey biography 15 years from now and she's cataloging her career. Yeah, because the match just happened. We don't necessarily know what the future holds in terms of if she's still going to be feuding with Liv Morgan, and to kind of suspend the disbelief, you don't need to be Monday morning quarterbacking the match that you just had. Let's suspend the disbelief. We don't need Bobby Lashley to get F5'd by Brock Lesnar and then immediately the microphone get in Brock Lesnar's face and go, yeah, I liked what I did out there. I think the music hit it right the perfect time. Bobby, what a great participant for me out there. He was just waiting right there. I think I could have hit the F5 a little bit better, but I actually brought it over to Triple H. He said, don't do it like this. No, they don't do that.
We don't need the inside baseball at this point.
We don't need it right away. We don't need Ronda Rousey to tell me
down the line
how the match was going to go literally the next day. Do it down the line when the feud's officially over, when you moved on. I love hearing Jerry Lawler currently on the Vice Tales from the Territories new special they have out there. They just did, the Memphis one where they did Andy Kaufman and Jerry Lawler and
catch up on that. That's
tales
cool.
from Memphis Wrestling. And it's great to hear all the tales from Memphis Wrestling. But what made Memphis Wrestling so good at the time is that the Jerry Lawler, Andy Kaufman thing, we just essentially knew about that being scripted, 15 years later? The whole thing, I remember personally my dad telling me he didn't know anything about wrestling, but he knew Jerry Lawler and he knew Andy Kaufman, and he stayed up and watched that. And it wasn't until I started getting into wrestling and the movie Man in the Moon and all that came out that I had to tell him, hey, what you saw in 1980, that wasn't real, right?
Yeah, that was totally
And he believed
scripted,
it until 2004 that it was. I'm not saying that
well done on both those dudes' part.
And I even think that David Letterman at the time might have not known.
No,
how scripted that was.
I think they kept that really
So
tight.
that's the point. Let's suspend the disbelief to what we can for the time being. Bray Wyatt's character right now is really good. Let's not immediately unmask him and start breaking that down, per segment.
It's like letting a good meat smoke.
We know that magic is an illusion, but David Copperfield, what would be best is if after the show's over or years down the line, he tells you how he does a trick. Not do the trick, tell you how he does a trick, then do another trick, and tells you how to do.
Low and slow, baby. Or you're making a good sauce. Let that stuff simmer for a little bit. Let's enjoy it. I do think the Bray Wyatt thing's going to ride out for a little bit, but I wouldn't say it's going to go months. I think it'll be go for a little bit. I mean, they're going to want to sell as many tickets as possible to the next few shows. So, hey, let's see what happens.
Will notice that, since he's debuted, the rabbit t-shirts, I didn't see any of them for sale. And they had the rabbit mask for sale as well, which makes me wonder because clearly his return has so far nothing to do with that. The whole White Rabbit thing. So anybody who bought the rabbit mask at the show, or anybody who bought the shirt that said "Who Killed the World? You Did" and has the rabbit on it, which I don't think he's getting away from that "Who Killed the World" thing, but I think that whole White Rabbit thing he's getting away from. So it's already essentially like an old shirt. It's the same as when it shows.
I don't know. I wouldn't disagree. I would disagree. I think he's going to tie that back in.
You think so?
Yeah. Bray Wyatt's a creative guy. He always finds a way to tie everything together in a really cool, creative way. I wouldn't put it past that part yet.